And good morning, Thailand. Thank you for joining us on episode number 23, coming to you from our studios at the Thaiger. And welcome to Abel from Find Your Voice Asia. Thank you very much for joining us. I am moving the mic, making a noise that will annoy the sound guys. And we've also got online Brad Dickinson. We'll say hi very quickly to you, Brad, and we'll get back to you very soon. Brad's coming to us from Perth.
That's right.
All right, so we'll get back to you very soon. Brad's from Oil Zorb, speaking about the oil slick and the tar balls that have made their appearance on Phuket's beaches over the past week. But Abel, there's some Sandbox news. And we say good morning to Scott D. We've got Paul from Holland. We've got somebody from
Mike.
Florida, Las Vegas. 4 a.m. in the Netherlands. What are you doing up at 4 a.m.? And we've got Mike D. Death Grip G.I. Joe. Just got to focus my eyes a bit. Latest in the Sandbox news is the Cabinet has approved the Sandbox tourism scheme that will allow Phuket to reopen on July the 1st for fully vaccinated travellers. Now, the other news is that there's a trio of destinations in the Gulf of Thailand. That's Koh Samui, Koh Tao, Koh Phangan. They'll also be able to open under the same Sandbox scheme on July the 15th. Now, that reopening scheme would be scrapped, indeed any of them will be scrapped if there's more than 90 people, 90 infections
per week.
Per week.
Yeah.
So people will be getting out their calculators and be assured that the people putting out the numbers will be making sure that they don't go over 90 per week. The people who travel to Koh Samui, Koh Phangan and Koh Tao will be required to travel in a sealed route scheme, and for the first 3 days they'll have to stay in their approved hotels. Then they can travel along the sealed routes between day 4 and 7, that means to the other islands, and then from... sealed routes means they can travel within their that island, and then from day 8 to 15 they can travel to any of the other islands as well.
I have a question, Tim, because I heard another news.
You would.
Yes, I do. Now, you're talking about Koh Samui, Koh Phangan, and Koh Tao. But for people who have already had 2 shots of the vaccine approved with their insurance, etc., all the documents, they can come into Phuket and not have to stay in a quarantine hotel. Is that correct? They can travel freely.
They can travel freely around the island, but
Right.
they do have to stay in an SHA plus approved hotel. Now, there are hundreds of those at the moment, and they start at, I looked yesterday, around about 800 baht per night. So it's not as if every budget is not accounted for.
So they have to stay in the hotel. They can still go out.
Yes, they can
Right.
leave the hotel, wander around the island. They just need to stay at the hotel at night time.
Right. So they cannot go back to their villas or their house and sleep there at night?
They can during the daytime, but they have to go back to the hotel at night.
How are they going to check that?
Well, you download your app and
You're being tracked.
They'll know where you are.
Oh. Okay.
So we're going to get to some of these questions. Is this how you get to Thailand or North Korea? Ha ha ha. That's from Frank Watson. But anyway, let's go to our guest and get started with him. Brad Dickinson is from Oil Zorb. He's a consultant for the oil spill industry and been involved in sort of safety regarding oil spills. Brad, can I ask you, or say hello firstly to Perth in Australia? You're what 1 hour difference from Thailand?
Yeah, 1 hour, yeah.
Okay. What's been washing up on Phuket's beaches? Is it dangerous?
If handled, it's definitely not good for health. I'm picking up any petroleums. You should take extra care of not having skin exposure, and it should be securely put away and stored in the proper containers.
So what's washed up on Phuket's beaches has been these sort of little like tar balls, like plasticine. It's not what you'd call the traditional oil spill label.
It's not like liquid, right? It's more like a ball.
So where do you think it's come from? What's the latest gossip?
Well, it's a heavy, obviously a very heavy crude that's caused this coagulation. There was talk of it possibly coming from the wreck in Sri Lanka, That is possible. On the information I was giving, given the tides and the monsoons at the moment, debris from that wreck could reach Phuket in about 32 days. But it's also more likely that it could have been done from a transfer done offshore.
But that hasn't been reported. We don't know of any dumps having occurred on the Andaman Sea that would wash onto Phuket shore. So it's obviously been done illegally. But have you seen these tar balls before? Any oil spills?
Yes, yeah. There was a similar result, a similar occurrence that happened off Cape Upstart in the Barrier Reef in 2015, and that was found to be an illegal dump by a passing freighter. So, it is something that happens
from time to time.
Around the world,
Abel.
Yes. I haven't had any questions for Brad exactly yet. They're more asking about other things. But I would like to ask a question, if you don't mind, Brad. I have children, and of course, I will make sure that my children stay away from these tar balls and oil. But what if you touch them? Do you think that there will be any health issues if you just touch them with your bare hands?
Well, just general exposure, and age has got nothing to do with it. The longer exposure you have to petroleum products, the more the skin can absorb it. So,
right.
Brad, I'll show you this. This is my shoe from the other day. I was walking. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So, and it smells like oil. There's no mistaking it. And it is almost impossible to remove. You have to literally scrape it off. It doesn't seem to be anything that's going to act as a solvent. It's pretty nasty stuff.
Yeah.
So what does Oil Zorb do? Actually, no, I'll come back and I'll ask you that. We've got a lot of questions coming in.
Yes.
Hello to Ben, to Adam, to Keone, to Mike D, Eric, Sam, and Starchild Uni. Starchild Uni. We'll get to you as soon as we can, but just hold on there, Brad. We'll come and have a talk about Oil Zorb in a moment. You're watching Good Morning Thailand. We'll have a quick check with today's main headlines. And you're back on Good Morning Thailand. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday morning, coming to you all the way from Thailand, live. We do this live every single day. I've got Abel from Find Your Voice Asia. Interesting comment from one of our members there, Abel.
Yes, Alexander Starkey, and I apologize if I do pronounce your name wrong, but
how can you get Alexander Starkey wrong?
Starkey. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of strange names out there, aliases. And he was saying that have seen these all over Thai island, sadly, over the years.
That's interesting. How often, Brad, do these oil slicks happen? I mean, the one in Sri Lanka was obviously very dramatic and very big, but it looks like boats seem to dump this oil more often than we would like to admit.
Yeah, it's a problem, global problem of the fact that oil zorbs only make the headlines when there is a major catastrophe. But basically it happens every day, 365 days of the year from certain different levels. You can, the amount of environmental damage that can be done by just a drop of a drum being spilled into a local marina. The fact that it often hits the water and then spreads and dissipates, a lot of people say, well, it's disappeared. But with petroleum, it doesn't disappear. It ends up breaking down and then falling into the marine environment below the waves.
Brad, we've got Jake Miller who asked the question, is there any proactive work being done to find the source or offshore mitigation? I mean, how would authorities in Thailand track down the source of the vessel that's done this dump? Can they use satellites, or how would you do it in your field?
Well, it's just the government would have the movement of shipping in the areas. Then it'd be a matter of getting their marine scientists to work out the ships in that vicinity, the movement of the winds and the tides that could result in this movement towards the Phuket coast. It'd be something I'm sure
a digital sort of Sherlock Holmes. Another question there, Abel?
I do not have any questions regarding the oil spill, except for comments exactly. But we would love to welcome more questions for Brad specifically about your concerns for the tar and oil spills. I do want to ask, for the viewers out there, perhaps, if you hear these kinds of news about, and actually I found that quite depressing that you said that there's oil spills every day, 365 days a year. How does that affect the viewers in your perception of Thailand, and would you still want to come and still want to travel, even if this particular situation that we're having at the moment?
This is definitely not a point the finger at Thailand.
Sure.
Thailand, compared with a lot of countries, has a very good record in minimising oil spills in the areas where there's a high volume of ship traffic, like through the Straits of Malacca, the Philippines in particular. We're actually working very closely with the Philippine Coast Guard at the moment in putting together a whole situation where the actual Philippine Coast Guard is now planning that every person that goes onto a ship within Philippines waters needs to know how to react to an oil spill. The biggest...
Hold it there, Brad. Just got more comments coming in.
Yeah, from Bob Dobbin, he did mention that the mineral spirits of turpentine may release tar balls. Not sure if these solvents available.
I'm afraid.
Recalling similar oil in South California in late 1950s.
Yeah, if I was to use mineral turpentine and methylated spirits and other solvents like that, I'm afraid my shoes might vanish as well, because they're basically made of petrochemicals too. Tell us just very quickly, Brad, what is Oil Zorb? This is a product that you're involved in that can help mitigate or clean up oil spills.
Well, Oil Zorb is totally unique to all other efforts of oil retaining oil after a spill. Believe it or not, the raw product is mined in Thailand, and that it is then processed, and it's currently being held in Australia. And
so where do they mine it from?
I haven't got the exact place in front of me at the moment.
Somewhere in Thailand.
But you'd have to speak to the owner of the business who actually got the patent for that. But where this product differs from everyone else is it actually can be handled by hand. You don't need PPE gear, and it is 100% environmentally safe.
So just looking at your videos, it's sort of, you sprinkle this, it's like a sort of a dust or a particle out onto an oil slick, so basically spray it, and then it soaks up or absorbs the oil, and then it can be quite easily scooped up and got rid of, or...
That's correct, yeah. Right. So basically for 1 kilo of Oil Zorb, you can absorb up to 3 kilos of petroleum.
Okay.
And this can then be easily transported, and it can be sent off for recycling, and then the Oil Zorb can then be reused.
Okay,
if you haven't got the recycling facilities, you can just store it in bags, preferably biodegradable bags, and take it and put it in storage, and bacterial destruction will happen within that. and you'll
Okay.
get broken down. But that takes over, a fair period.
All right.
Whereas with the Oil Zorb, you can actually reuse the oil.
Okay. Oh, reuse the oil. That's good to know. You got a comment there, Abel?
Yeah, I do. And I love all these comments from all the viewers. Thank you so much for joining us live, obviously. I have a comment from the question that I asked earlier from Steve's Thailand Adventures. Of course, it affects people's decision in coming. Oil spill on the beach, ridiculous restrictions on entering, quarantine when returning home, all factors. And that was relating to the question that I was asking Brad earlier, or asking myself as well, speaking out loud about how this oil spill or whatever that's washing up affects people's decision in coming to Thailand.
All right, Brad, thank you very much for joining us today. Very interesting to hear about that product and your thoughts on the oil spill that beset the Andaman coast along Phuket. We can also report that the government here have not been able to find out exactly what has caused it at this stage.
Right.
But anyway, thank you, Brad, for joining us all the way from Perth today. Brad from Oil Zorb.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you very much for your time.
We'll see you later.
See you.
See you then. Bye.
That's Brad there from Oil Zorb, Brad Dickinson. So let's have a quick break, Abel, and we'll get to some of these comments.
Yes.
So, you are on Good Morning Thailand. It's a Wednesday, and we'll be back right after this short break. And we're back on Good Morning Thailand, going through all your comments.
Yes.
So, hello, Mike. Hello, Bipolar Punt. Where do you get these names from? Gary, Paul R. A friend of mine has a bar in Patong. He's not even considering opening before October.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is certainly able around the island of Phuket, which are the first step in this reopening of the whole of Thailand, a bit of a wait and see attitude.
Yes, definitely, definitely. But I have to say that the good news is for the people who drink alcohol, I think Tim and I do not actually drink alcohol, but we have friends who enjoy drinking alcohol, and the alcohol ban, the alcohol ban for restaurants started 2 days ago. Restaurants, not bars, and not entertainment venues.
Yeah, they're still closed.
Right, they're still closed. They're still not allowed to open. But restaurants, so many people are actually, flooding in to restaurants to have fun and to drink alcohol, which is very good news for local businesses.
Hey, Tim, I'm intrigued. You have been a teetotaler all your life, so why? Strict religious parents, someone who had a drinking problem in your family? No, I have been a teetotaler all my life. I've never actually had any alcohol, but I did go to a boarding school. I've tried to sort of figure this out myself.
Strict childhood?
No, in fact, my parents both had a bit of a sherry after work every day, and they said, "Would you like a drink?" And I think if they'd ever said, "Don't you dare go near that alcohol cupboard, otherwise you'll be barred."
The temptations make you want to do it, right?
Yeah, so I never started, but there were some fellow students who were staying at the boarding school where I was for some 7 years, who did get involved in alcohol and got very, very sick. In fact, one of them died. So I think that may have had some effect, but it's not a religious, it's not a moral thing, it's not even particularly a health thing. Got plenty of friends who drink. I don't even think about commenting on their alcohol consumption. I'm very happy if people want to drink. I just don't. There's no particular reason. Let's get to these comments.
I have a question from Grammar Officer Krupke.
Yes.
So the alcohol ban started 2 days ago. No, the alcohol ban stopped. It reopened for restaurants. So restaurants are allowed starting 2 days ago, to serve alcohol.
That's basically any yellow zone
Right.
around Thailand, which is the majority of provinces. Some provinces have got their own individual restrictions, but places like Chiang Mai, Phuket, you can now serve alcohol, I think, until 11 o'clock in restaurants, but nightclubs
Not
and
bars.
bars are still closed.
They're not allowed to open. And I have a few other questions as well. My goodness, the comments are scrolling so fast. I have to really keep track. There was a lot of questions about hotels. Are they allowed to open in October? And also, like, are there any discounts still for many of the hotels that are here?
Yeah, I mean, people are sort of, I think, assuming that there's going to be price gouging going on, but there are some really good deals on the hotels, and there are some 400 or 500 already registered as SHA Plus in Phuket. And this is going to spread right around Thailand, so there'll be this SHA registration. So in the future, you'll be able to know if you go and stay in a hotel, and the government will insist on this in the early days at least, you'll know that the staff have been vaccinated. So it's just like a safety, SHA stands for Safety Health Authority or something.
I do know that there are properties, restaurants, etc., that says with a sign in the front that our staff are vaccinated. Please come and eat safely. And I also believe that the convention exhibition bureaus and also the TATs, they are wanting to get the people to come in. So the hotel rates should not increase dramatically, from now into October. And maybe there will still probably, I mean, of course, I am assuming at the moment, but there will probably still be some really, really great deals from October onwards. And October is the starting of the high season. So it shouldn't be raining as much as it is now, right?
I think September and October are the wettest months in the south, yes.
September, yes. But technically, starting from October onwards until March, that is considered the high season, yes.
Yeah. Bob says, no alcohol ban in my house in Atlanta. Thank you. We'll send people down there. No bars will be open until next phase, I hear, says Mike D. Well, yes, at some stage, the government, as they slowly just loosen the restrictions, will allow bars to open, but that isn't the case at the moment.
Well, I do know that, there are people out there besides us who enjoy drinking alcohol, and doesn't have to be to the level of an alcoholic, but, people like to enjoy a few drinks in the restaurant, socialize with friends is very important for, connection as well. That's one of the big problems during COVID. People feel disconnected. So this will be a way of, bringing the economy back up and also helping people with their mental health as well.
Abel, it needs to be remembered, though, and the reason the Thai government are quite risk averse is that this whole third wave started in the bars around Tong Law.
Yes.
And it was the social connecting and the alcohol infused socialisation which sort of caused this.
Yes.
So alcohol has sort of been made out to be the big bad boogeyman, where it's really people's behaviour that's been the problem.
Right.
So I think that is one of the reasons behind their focus on alcohol, on bans, and why they're so risk averse. Let's keep going. Thailand should adopt the US model. Dirty old man says that. Thank you, dirty old man.
Oh, that's the name. Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, the US is just in a different phase of their COVID recovery, and they've got a much quicker, or their vaccine rollout is much more progressed than here in Thailand. Here in Thailand, there's still some 5-6 million people vaccinated. I'm being vaccinated next Monday, my first...
Good for you.
Well, it's just something I have to do. I'm getting the AstraZeneca vaccine, so I'm told.
Good for you. I got the Sinovac.
Well, yeah, and you're still alive, so, and so is most people who have been vaccinated, I'm glad to say. Right. Grammar Officer Krupke, what happens if a child tests positive or gets sick during the Sandbox? Well, they'll be hospitalised, as will anybody who tests positive. They will do a confirmation check if you do test positive, but it's not obviously going to be a good situation. It's probably going to ruin your holiday.
May I?
I was just going to sort of say that if the child tests positive before you even come into Thailand, then that's obviously going to be a bit of a downer. That's part of the reason you'll get COVID insurance before you come. Yes. Everybody coming to Thailand at the moment will have to get COVID insurance, which will cover them up to a value of $100,000.
I was speaking to a doctor who actually specialized in viruses, but I do not know exactly what her study is. But I was speaking to her last night, and she was saying that, Phuket should still not open, because obviously Phuket is the first province in Thailand to be, initiating this opening of the country. So she was saying that there are people who could still have COVID, even they have been vaccinated, and that they should still be quarantined for 2 weeks. What do you think about that, Tim?
Yes, I didn't hear a word you said because I was reading the comments.
Should I repeat?
Well, you've made your comment. The problem we have here, of course, is your comments are flooding in, and I'm trying to read them. This one was actually quite interesting. Gordon said, if they're checking the phones where you are, then leave the SIM in a cheap phone in the hotel and go and sleep in your residence at night. Well, we're not obviously going to condone that sort of behaviour, and the Thai government are not doing it to try and find out where you are. It's really for your safety. The idea being, if there is somebody who tests positive in an area near you, they can contact you and warn you. So it's not about just keeping tabs on you. They're not sitting in front of screens going, oh, Abel's gone from this shop to that shop. I mean, they don't have the technology to do that. It's just that they can find out where you are if they need to. They really don't care much where you go. So we don't condone that sort of behaviour.
Yeah, it's to help, to guide you to be a responsible, citizen, traveler, so that you do not have the chance, you have less chance of spreading COVID. And if you do, then they can have a chance, or a way to look and see where you have been so that they can track. Yeah, that's really the
Gary says, I think she crazy. So whatever you said...
Who is she?
Well, you're the only female in this room, as far as I can see, Abel.
You sure? Yes?
Yep. Alexander says, does not vaccinated foreign residents able to go in and out of Phuket? Yeah, if you're vaccinated as a resident on the island of Phuket, or anywhere in Thailand for that matter, you'll be able to come in and out of Phuket. So the reason I'm getting vaccinated mainly is because I need to get back up to our Bangkok office from time to time, and I'm not going to have somebody sticking a piece of wood up my nose. And if you did, it would probably get lost. Next question.
Should we go into another? So Frank Weston asked, will the Sandbox happen?
Yeah, as far as we know, 7 days to go. It's going to open by hook or by crook. And obviously there are still cases each day in Phuket. It's been around 3, 4, 5, 6 cases over the past week each day. But that's still at a level that's quite controllable. The government and the officials here have got what they call the situation under control. But if that goes up to, they say, 90 cases per week, they'll close down the Sandbox. Now, there may be some creative accounting used to ensure that those numbers stay below 90, but by hook or by crook, they are going to open up or start the whole reopening of Thailand on the 1st of July. It'll just be prying open the door quietly and seeing what happens.
Quietly.
It'll be a step-by-step process. It's not as if we're going to get thousands of tourists arriving on the first day. There'll be tens, then hundreds, then thousands. But hopefully by the high season, the situation will be more normalised, more of the restrictions will be removed. But that's the situation we're at now.
Well, many countries are obviously, very aware that they need to get everyone vaccinated. Actually, more than 70% of the the whole world's population before they feel that this pandemic can be more under control. So, of course, we cannot see the future. We are also just reporting the news and letting you know what we believe will happen. And Thailand and Thai culture, they too tend to be more careful, as they were very, very good in controlling the COVID virus here in Thailand during the first and the second wave. So we, of course, want more businesses to reopen back up to boost the economy, because many people are suffering, but we do have to be very careful. So.
Mike D shared, I think, a thought that a lot of people are feeling at the moment. He says, I finished my vaccine series on May the 4th. I'm ready to go somewhere. Stuck too long.
Yeah, I feel you.
Just lucky for me that I'm stuck on a beautiful tropical island. Yeah. So I'm not feeling a lot of the pain I'm sure other people have. Yeah. Ryan says very quietly, it's going to be a slow start. I think everybody acknowledges that. There's been some figures released by the TAT. There have been also other figures released by the AOT, the Airports of Thailand. I think everybody acknowledges it's going to be a slow start. Christian says, you're dreaming. No one's coming now. Well, people are still actually arriving in Thailand every single day. Currently, they have to do...
About 1,000 people into Thailand per day.
At the moment?
Yes. This is from a AOT source.
Okay.
Yes.
So there are people still coming and they're doing ASQ. People still have to do things. They may have to travel. Some people need to get back to their families. Well, the ASQ has been around for about 9 or 10 months, and people can arrive today. And yeah, as Abel said, it's up to 1,000 people. And those some airlines are still flying in with people on board, and people are leaving the country. So there is still people coming and going from Thailand each day. It's just the Sandbox will allow fully vaccinated people to come to Thailand, and they don't have to serve a quarantine period. In the case of the Phuket Sandbox, they can wander freely around the island.
I do have a question. Grammar Officer Krupke, I answered a question from you earlier, but you asked this twice and I was actually very interested. Will children who are sick from COVID be separated from their parents when they're arriving here?
We don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's going to be a very sad and unfortunate situation. I don't exactly know. Nobody knows how that's
If
going
I
to
was
be
a parent,
handled.
I would not. I would stay with my kids, and I would risk myself getting COVID, but I would stay
course.
with my children, of course.
I think that would be something, if you are going to bring kids, something you probably need to discuss with your embassy and get some sort of letter of assurance as to how that situation would be handled. The more you know before you come, the more you know.
Yes.
Vaccinated need insurance? Yes. Even people who have been fully vaccinated will require COVID insurance at this stage.
Right.
Now, a lot of these restrictions you might think are crazy. You may have your own opinions on them, but these are the guidelines, and it's not up to us to sugarcoat them or anything. We're just passing on the information.
Yes.
Any more?
I have a reply, and like I said, the comments are just so fast. I cannot even go back to the name, but somebody was asking me like, the female reporter, which is me. My name is Abel. Nice to meet all of you. I grew up in the U.S. I moved to U.S. when I was 10. That's why I have an American accent.
You certainly do.
Yes, can't help it.
Adrian says, can I extend tourist visa in the country? So how long, for how many times? It depends where you come from, but you will be issued an initial tourist visa. You can convert tourist visas into other types of visas once you're in the country. But again, if you want to do that, you'd probably consider that before you even leave your original country and discuss that with either your embassy or with a visa agent. You can convert a tourist visa once you're in the country to a different type of visa, perhaps or some visas you actually have to leave the country to apply. It's quite complicated. It's beyond our pay grade, and we'd suggest if you do want to get a long-term visa in Thailand, consult your embassy or a professional, reliable visa agent. There are plenty of scams out there as well. One more question from you, one from me, then we'll finish up.
Yes, okay. Thank you once again for all the questions. The question from, my goodness, wow, so many questions. I was going to answer one about the 1,000 people per day coming in. That is from a source from the AOT, which is the Airports Authority of Thailand. They did say, one of the bosses say 1,000 people arriving in Thailand.
And there's a lot of Thai people returning to Thailand.
They need to come back to see their families. They need to come back and see their houses. And some of the Thai people are not obviously based here. They have lived abroad. So,
all right. Question. This is from Bipolar Punt. Just make sure I read that right. Can unvaccinated Thais enter the Sandbox with a PCR test? No. If you come unvaccinated, at the moment you'll be required to do a 14-day quarantine under the current restrictions of the Sandbox.
Yes.
That may change in the future, but at the moment it's mostly for vaccinated travellers. You can come if you're unvaccinated, but you'll need to do a proper 14-day quarantine in an ASQ hotel.
even if you're going into Bangkok and even if you have been vaccinated, correct? If you even go into the Bangkok, you still need to stay
At the
2
moment.
weeks quarantine.
Yes, but
Phuket.
understand this situation is in its earliest phase. They will reduce the restrictions. They will start making it easier to come to the country, but it's not going to happen immediately. And they're just slowly opening the door.
You have to go with the flow.
Go with the
You have
flow.
to go with the flow.
What do you think about China vaccine? It seems to be perfectly serviceable. Most people in Thailand have had the Sinovac vaccine. There have been some instances in some countries where there's been a surge in cases after the vaccines. That's actually happening in quite a few countries, and it's pretty much blaming on people's behaviour because they think, oh, we've got vaccines now, so we can go back to all our old habits. And it takes a little while for the vaccines to kick in. And it takes also a bit of time for the change of mind and the change of habits to turn into new cases. So it appears that the Chinese vaccine, both Sinopharm and Sinovac, have got high efficacy after the second vaccine. And the epidemiologists and doctors in Thailand are reporting people with good immunity to COVID after being injected with those vaccines.
You know, you do need to continue to respect the rules that are, placed here. If you go anywhere, you are still expected to wear a mask. This is not like in the U.S. where many states do not even enforce you to wear masks. In Thailand, from what I know, obviously in Phuket and surrounding provinces, you are still required to wear masks when you go into any restaurants. Of course, not when you're eating, but go to the malls. If you do not put your mask on, they immediately say, please put your mask back on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Will the Sandbox have oil in it? From Bookie65. Ha ha ha. Very funny. Frank says, thanks guys for another wonderful show. Thank you, Frank. Lawrence asks, if there are more than 90 cases per day, will my trip to Phuket be cancelled? It's 90 cases per week is what they're setting as their limit. Well, your trip won't be cancelled, but they probably won't let you into the country, if you know what I mean. Yeah. This is one of the reasons you need travel insurance and COVID insurance, so you'll be able to postpone your trip if that situation happens.
Correct.
Of course, we hope everything goes well. Alex says, Sinovac's D variant. Well, yeah. These variants are obviously causing concern for the vaccine producers, and some of the vaccines appear to have higher rates of efficacy against the variants. We're not trained epidemiologists. Suggest probably most people out there aren't either. So we'll wait till we hear some more official information about that before we comment on it.
Yes.
We got to go.
Yeah. And thank you to all the viewers who joined us live. I mean, you guys are really actually running the show here.
And that's the truth. The whole idea of these live programs is we try and throw some topics out there, but you sort of pretty much run the programs.
Yeah.
And we do our best to respond. We're so sorry that we can't get to everybody, but we're going to try and get more efficient at it. And we've got some different faces, some different people coming into the studio each day. Now we've got, who do we have on the program tomorrow? Hang on, I'll just quickly check because people might be interested. Tomorrow we've got, oh yes, we're talking about immigration. If people are interested in getting visas or about the immigration situation in Thailand, we've got an immigration lawyer on the program tomorrow. And on Friday, we've got Greg Lang from the Bangkok Community Project talking about the clusters and the way that the foreigners have rolled up their sleeves and helped a lot of those people in those housing communities and what the current situation is. And next week, I've got, who is it? Can't remember.
I'll come back next Wednesday.
Abel will be back next Wednesday.
Yes.
Oh, the other thing we're going to try and do, from July the 1st, we're going to take the program on the road. We're going to be sitting in a cafe or a hotel for the whole week, and people will be able to come in and sit with us.
That sounds very nice.
And join in. Hopefully, we might get some tourists who are arriving under the Sandbox to come in and have a talk to us as well.
Another motivation to come to Thailand and Phuket.
Come and see us.
Come and see us. No, come and see him. Yeah, this guy.
Yeah, I don't think so somehow. All right, Abel, thank you very much for coming in.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Abel from Find Your Voice Asia. Thank you also to Jay and Jason for pushing some buttons, and to Arena for monitoring the sound out there. We are doing our best to try and conquer these sound problems. It's not as easy as you would think. There's a lot of moving parts here to get this happening with sort of prosumer non-professional gear, but we're doing our best, and we hope the sound hasn't been too bad today. Thank you for watching, and we do appreciate your time to join in the program. Should I mention, we also did a poll yesterday asking you what time you would like to watch or be involved in Good Morning Thailand, and so we'll get to those results tomorrow. We've got Thailand news today on later today, probably with Jet, to bring you up to date with all Thailand's news, and you can catch up with all the latest news at thetiger.com. But from Bipolar Punt, Gav, find your voice. Oh, that's you.
That's me, yeah. I did comment as a Find Your Voice Asia.
Bob, Ben, Paul, thank you everybody for watching. And
Thanks,
to Alexander Starkey, we'll see you tomorrow on Good Morning Thailand.